So today I have a very special guest on the show. His name is Joe Carlo. He is the owner of Pink Owl Coffee up here in the Bay Area. Joe, thank you so much for coming on here today. I know you're a fan of the channel and you watch a lot of my videos. So what kind of made you, decide to start watching my channel and kind of, want to do this today?
Well, I think just the way that everything's going with the economy and the elections and the possible recession coming up, I've just figured it'd be nice to reach out to everyone and just kind of let them know what we're going through with our business.
Yeah, that was the most interesting thing when you reached out to me and you told me kind of what was happening, because you own 3 coffee shops, right, here in the Bay Area?
Yes.
And you told me that this is actually the worst year that you've had since the pandemic, right?
That's correct.
So why don't you kind of elaborate a little bit on that and tell us what's going on?
Well, COVID, we opened up a week before COVID hit, and that was definitely very challenging, and we had to learn to pivot quickly. But with inflation right now, everything's just so much more expensive, and the way that unemployment is, and just people are not out as much going to cafes.
So you're not seeing the foot traffic?
No, we're not.
Because I just reported on this on a recent video also, that restaurants are actually seeing like a 3.5% decline in foot traffic year over year right now in general, but obviously it could be worse or better depending on your location or situation.
Definitely. I mean, I would say probably this year our sales are probably down 30 to 40%, and not just us, a lot of other businesses, restaurants, retail, other stuff as well.
So as a business owner, how do you deal with having sales down 30 or 40%? I mean, that is a pretty big reduction in revenue. I mean, what are things that you have to do in order to survive, essentially?
Well, you got to look at your business, and you got to cut back where you can, whether it be staff, whether it be maybe a product that you don't necessarily sell a lot through, or minimize your menu, or look at other avenues of saving money when it comes to supplies or products.
Have you had to let people go so far, or how, have you had to, pick up more hours yourself as the business owner? How is that going?
Definitely had to pick up a lot more hours as a business owner. We haven't had to let necessarily people go, but we creatively have spread out shifts and have reduced hours for our employees.
Okay. And one thing you mentioned to me was how you are kind of a minority in the business world, in the sense that you started this business from the ground up with no loans, with no outside investors, with no capital from anybody else. It was all your money, and you're essentially operating on no debt. And that's probably one of the things that's allowed you to kind of stay in business right now, wouldn't you think? Because if you had debt, like a lot of these other businesses, you might not be able to make it.
Exactly. I think that we are very fortunate that we are a debt-free company, and we don't have any loans against any of our machinery or refrigeration or any of our vendors. But a lot of other businesses out there that do have those things, I can definitely see a struggle in the future with them. The way that the pricing of, with inflation, with cheese costing 50% more, and I mean, even green beans that we buy to roast, they're up $3 a pound.
Wow. What other kind of expenses has your businesses faced? Like, I mean, you're seeing sales go down, but at the same time, probably, expenses for a lot of your inventory and things that you need to buy to operate coffee shops go up.
Oh yeah, everything's gone up. From, for instance, PG&E. They've had a couple price increases, but it's about 30% higher than what it used to be. Green bean suppliers, they're 50+% higher. And then just service and everything, everyone's labor's more expensive, everyone's time's more expensive. So overall, it's just very challenging.
So, I mean, what kind of tactics are you going to resort to in order to kind of fill that gap? Are you going to resort to shrinkflation type of deals, or you're going to be shrinking the size of the coffee cups and charging the same, or what is your plan to handle that?
Yeah, so that's one tactic of ours that we're thinking about is, we offer a 20 ounce, is our largest size, and it has 4 shots of espresso, and a lot of people don't necessarily need or want that. So, shrinking the size of the cups is a nice way to save some money in the business. Portions, as far as, trying to find better or doing things yourself. Like, for instance, we bake our own pastries. So things like that will definitely help out a lot of businesses that you can do on your own.
Okay, so you kind of have to improvise a little bit and figure out ways that you can cut costs within your store by essentially doing some things yourself that other businesses would outsource.
Exactly.
So a little bit ago, you mentioned inflation. Like, how has inflation, would you say, impacted your business? There's a lot of arguing about, how much inflation has actually gone up. The official numbers say it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 25, 27% over the past 4.5 years. But I think the average person will tell you it's much higher than that, probably closer to double that official number. And what do you see as your real numbers in your business?
I mean, I would say 25 to 35% is very conservative. I would say it's probably more like 35 to 50%, depending on the products or goods or services that you're acquiring for your specific business. It's been very challenging, though.
Wow, that's a big increase, man. 35 to 50% increase in expenses. And how much have you had to raise your prices since then?
Since we've opened our doors, we've had a total of 2 price increases. But keep in mind, we used to buy, for instance, green coffee at $2 a pound. Now they're $5 to $6 a pound. So everything has gone up, from cups to milk to sugar to power. You name it, everything has gone up. So we've had to raise our prices a couple times.
And so you think the number one issue is just that people aren't coming in because they don't want to spend the extra money on coffee? Do you guys offer anything else there besides coffee? You have some food and things like that?
Yeah, we have food, we have pastries, we have teas and matcha, different things like that. But I feel like business has definitely decreased for a lot of businesses because just the price people have to pay these days is challenging for them. And I feel like they don't know what's going to happen in this economy. So they're doing a lot of home brewing. They're not out shopping as much.
What would be kind of like the things you're looking at doing moving forward to get people back into the store? Like, for example, you see a lot of the fast food restaurants are doing the $5 meal deals again. They're starting to bring back promotions that they had pre-pandemic and making it the same price. So they're barely making anything. Maybe if they're lucky, they're breaking even. I mean, do you have plans to do stuff like that, or?
Yeah, so we have a couple ideas. Number one, marketing is always good. We use Square, so we do a Square marketing that gets coupons right to your phone, and we'll let our customers know that we're running a special or a coupon or a sale or whatever. That's always great. But as far as pretty much just looking at where your biggest losses and profits are and cutting back on the higher losses and focusing on the better profit products, just so we can pay our rents.
So you're doing like a combination of marketing and stopping to offer things that just don't sell as well and don't make you as much money.
That's correct.
Okay, that sounds like a smart plan. You told me also that you know a lot of other people that own businesses here in the Bay Area that are also struggling right now. Do you know kind of some things that they're going through in different businesses besides the coffee business?
Yeah, so we're friends with a lot of businesses, and we do a lot of events with the Chamber of Commerce and the business development. And so we get to talk to a lot of businesses, and definitely a lot of industries are struggling right now. We talk to a lot of them, whether it's manufacturing, whether it's retail. They're just not getting the foot traffic. They're not getting the online sales. I have not met yet a business this year that says that they're booming and doing amazing.
So I think it'd be safe to say that a lot of these people that you know that own businesses probably share the same sentiment that we do, and especially people here on the channel, that things are not nearly as good as we're being told right now.
Exactly. Things
Okay.
are definitely not as good as we're being told.
So, do you think that this is an issue that is more just something that's happening here in the Bay Area and Marin County, or you think this is something that's happening nationwide? Because I mean, I get a lot of people that watch the channel, and every time I make a video like this or talking about business slowing down in certain areas, I always see the same thing from people like, well, the restaurants where I live are packed, or the mall here is packed, or whatever. So people have like a different experience on things like that.
I think it's a lot of different places. I mean, not just California. I feel like throughout the United States, I feel like this whole country is really hurting.
Yeah, I mean, I get that impression as well. I mean, I've driven across the country a couple of times now, and I've been to a lot of different places, and I've seen, you know, how slow and a lot of desolate towns are. They're just like nothing's really going on, you know. Even here, compared to Miami where I live, it's kind of dead in a lot of areas. You know, you can go to a shopping center or whatever, and there's just not a lot of people and not a lot of, you know, action unless there's a grocery store there. One other thing I wanted to ask you is, you know, as a business owner, somebody who's still surviving in this economy, what kind of advice would you give to somebody who'd be looking to start a business right now?
Definitely do your research. Check your, talk to other local businesses in what you're trying to do. Read a lot of books and just make sure that you have a plan for the future, meaning, just not to open your doors, but you do have reserves, whether it be, a year or two of savings that can push you through these difficult times.
And so would you say that would be kind of your backup plan? Like if worst case scenario happened and you had to close your doors, then at least you have savings and, something else to fall back on?
Exactly.
I see. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much how I operate things here as well. I mean, obviously YouTube is a pretty lean business model to operate here. Don't have a whole lot of overhead or expenses, but that would be the same thing for me. It's just you put money away and you are saving for a time when things might not be so good or maybe not happening at all. And if you're able to have enough, then you're able to kind of springboard into the next phase of life, whatever that ends up being. Let's move the conversation a little bit over to California here in general, because you actually moved here from Florida.
That's correct.
So I want to talk a little bit about some of the things you see around here and kind of just like why you still live here and what keeps you here. As somebody who used to live in Florida compared to being here in California, just tell everybody kind of what brought you out here and what keeps you here.
Pretty much grew up in Florida and Tampa Bay area, Davis Islands area. And when my oldest son graduated high school, we all kind of wanted to change. And we said, hey, let's go to California for the California dream. I asked them where they wanted to go. They said California. Within a month, we packed up the house and we've been here ever since. Now, I do miss Florida a lot because I feel like the economy over there is a little bit better. It's a little more vibey. Here, there's not as much to do, but the weather's the best here.
Yeah, definitely the weather is what keeps me coming back here every summer. I mean, I don't miss those hot, humid Florida summers, that's for sure. But what about like running a business here in California? Because I've heard from other people and also read many things about that this is essentially the worst state to start a business or operate one in terms of regulations and taxes and fees and everything like that. How about that stuff?
Absolutely. I mean, as far as California is concerned, they make it very difficult to open a business, to operate a business. Everybody's got their hands out. They're not really willing to work with you too much. It's very challenging.
So what are some of the challenges you've run into?
I mean, from permitting, just the length of time that it takes to get things done here is triple than it would be in other places. The cost for the permits, the cost for the operating of the businesses, the taxes. I think Petaluma's going to 10% sales tax.
Wow.
Yeah.
But despite all those things, you still kind of like being here, right? You don't really have any plans to move back to Florida.
I don't have any plans to move back to Florida. We do own a condo there, so we go there a couple times a year. My family's from there and they still live there. Unless if my kids move, I'll probably stay here. I'm here for them.
One thing I'm always curious about when I talk to people here in California is like, what would have to happen for you living here in California? Like, how bad would things have to get for you to actually say, you know what, I'm done with California, I want to move back to Florida?
Honestly, things are pretty bad right now. If they get worse, that's a definite possibility. Inflation is incredibly high. Unemployment is incredibly high. Just to live here, housing is very expensive. Sales tax is very expensive. If it continues this way and nothing's changed, the homeless problem that we have here in California is unfortunate, but they don't really want to do much about it. They get billions of dollars a year and everything is the same. In the last 10 years, I've seen no changes.
Yeah, I just saw recently that California actually has the highest unemployment rate of any state in the country right now, even though they have supposedly the best economy, which is kind of ironic. But, one thing I see people say a lot, especially about places like here, like, oh, you get what you voted for. Not to turn this into political or anything, but it kind of makes me wonder, like, if so many people here are unhappy with the situation, then why do they keep kind of voting for more of the same, like more regulation, more taxes, higher minimum wage, and all of that stuff?
Yeah, that's a difficult one to answer because I ask myself that all the time and I really don't have an answer. You would think that they would want to change.
But you talk to neighbors and friends here and other people, I'm sure, that maybe have an opinion on that or say something about it.
I do. And a lot of them are just quiet about their opinion.
Really?
Yeah.
So they just kind of keep it to themselves and they don't say anything, huh?
Not much, no. They might talk to us about it, but things are the way they are because this is what it is and what people have voted for, and hopefully there will be a change coming soon.
What do you think would have to happen here in California for things to get better? Like you said, if it gets any worse, then you maybe would consider leaving. Like, how do you think that they can put things into reverse here?
I think that they need to ease taxes. I think that they need to, the housing market, they need to control that a little bit better. I feel like they need to be easier on businesses because they're bullies. They bully you for time, for money, for resources, and waste a lot of time and effort when we could be doing our jobs.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like if the government here would just kind of get out of the way with so many different things, then things could work a lot faster and more efficient here. But it seems like every year what they do is the opposite, and they kind of just introduce more laws and more regulations and make it harder to do X, Y, or Z.
Exactly. I mean, minimum wage in some counties right now are over $20 an hour, and that's great for big brands, but like Chick-fil-A, McDonald's, but for small businesses, that's very challenging and hard to pay that because people don't realize you don't only pay $20 an hour as a business owner. You still have to pay unemployment taxes, you have to pay EDD, you have to pay a lot of other things. So it comes out to probably around $25 an hour.
And I would imagine your business is affected by that too, right?
Exactly. And keep in mind, we're a coffee shop, so our average ticket's $5-6,
Right.
maybe $7. So we're not selling pizzas for $30 or steaks for $69 or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's just wild to think that a business like you has to pay essentially $25 an hour to any employee you hire. Doesn't matter how qualified they are or what age they are. Even if you were to hire a teenager, you would still have to pay them $25 an hour, right?
Yeah, and every county is different. So I think the minimum wage in San Rafael is $16 an hour, but then like other counties like Petaluma's, I think $17.45 or $18 an hour, depending on what industry you're in. There's different codes for that.
I see. And so the state of California still classifies your business as a fast food establishment that has to pay that minimum wage?
Not yet, but they're talking about passing that this year.
Okay, so right now it's more just countywide, it's being enforced. If you're not essentially a fast food restaurant, it may spread to you But right now, a coffee shop would be exempt from paying the 20 bucks an hour.
In this county, but San Francisco, I believe, is $20 an hour, regardless of the industry.
Yeah, you know, I see some restaurants here when I go out to eat. Not all of them do it, but some of them do it, and they do it very quietly on the check. They'll put something on the bottom like, due to, you know, increases in inflation and minimum wage requirements and, you know, regulations here in California, we're adding like an extra, basically, employee benefit fund to their checks. I mean, how common is that here?
It was really common during COVID, and a lot of businesses would charge this 3% fee or 5%, sometimes even more. It's definitely calmed down a little bit, but you still do see it a lot as far as businesses trying to collect extra money just for the operations of their business. Something we don't do, but a lot of businesses do that.
So do you know any other business owner that actually does that?
Yes.
Okay, and so does that money actually go towards what they're saying that it's being collected for, or?
Who knows?
You don't know?
No.
Yeah, because it makes me wonder, like, okay, I'm coming to your restaurant, I'm already paying a higher price as a customer, because surely the prices have gone up over the past 4 years, and, you know, you're not going to treat the waiter poorly and not give them a tip as long as they do a good job. And so you're kind of in this situation as the customer where you have to pay a higher price at the restaurant, you have to tip higher because, you know, your bill is higher, and then on top of that, you have to pay this extra fee. And this is something I've really only seen here in California.
Exactly. And on top of that, another thought, these platforms like DoorDash, Uber, Grubhub, Postmates, whatever it might be, they charge the restaurants a 30+% fee. I guess there's pros and cons to it. The positive could be that that's business that a restaurant wouldn't have without those services. But I think that in this day and age, everything is Instacart, DoorDash, delivery, and people are becoming more complacent. They're shopping online on Amazon. They're looking for the best deals out there. So that's going to also make a lot of other businesses go under, because if they don't get that foot traffic, and they're already losing 30% because of inflation and foot traffic, and now they're losing another 30% because of DoorDash and Grubhub and these other platforms, I don't know how they could survive.
Yeah, I don't know either. I mean, maybe they're just taking on debt like the average person nowadays to survive. And it seems like what most people are doing, they put things on the credit card or buy now, pay later, and businesses have all forms of ways to do that for sure.
Definitely, especially like with these POS systems, they track all of your inventory and your sales and your payroll, and they're always offering you these loans and whatnot to get you more in debt and get you more cycled through their system. You're just becoming more in debt. Stay away from those.
Wow, it's integrated into that level now, literally on your POS system that they're selling you, trying to get you into debt. I didn't know that.
So they'll look at your sales, they'll track your sales, and they'll say, okay, you did whatever, $40,000 last month, we're gonna give, or every month, we're gonna give you a loan for $50,000. Sounds great, there's no interest, there's a fee, a $10,000 or whatever it might be, fee on top of that. But what happens is they take that money out of your account every single day, regardless if you have it or not, 20, 30% of your sales. So it's very easy to get into debt by taking advantage of those programs. So just do your research.
Wow. Yeah, that's a great tip there.
So a lot of people don't realize that a restaurant model, there's an average of maybe a 1 to 10% markup profit in their business. But when they start a business, they don't look at all the pieces. They look, okay, well, rent's going to be this, electric's going to be this, my food cost is going to be this. But then as you grow, you start adding other things. You might need garbage service. That's an extra $1,000 a month. You might need more employees or different. You might need a social media person. You might need a manager, an office manager, and those are higher paid positions. And then you might start incorporating benefits, whether it be PTO or health or 401k, stuff like that. So those are additional. And then before you know it, that 10% shrinks down to 1%, or in most cases, negative.
Yeah, so definitely when you're operating any kind of business, you obviously need to remain profitable. But it sounds like to me, the restaurant business in particular is difficult to turn a profit if you're not bringing in the volume of sales. So like your type of business relies on a lot of people coming through the door and ordering coffee every day.
Yes. So our business model is a little different than other people's business model. The reason I chose coffee is, number one, I'm an avid coffee lover. But with coffee, there's a lot of different things you could do. Like you can get into grocery stores, you can wholesale your coffee, you do coffee clubs, you can do catering, you can sell merchandise, you can sell your coffee to breweries, you can have your coffee in pastries. So there's a lot of different revenue generations there. Other businesses don't really have that. I mean, if you were to open up a sandwich shop, you're kind of just stuck doing sandwiches. It's a very competitive market and it's very challenging.
Joe, one thing I want to ask you before we go is, as somebody who kind of shares the sentiment on what's going on with this economy right now, that things are definitely not as good as we're being told by the mainstream media and our government and the Fed. Like, what are just some things that you're doing, not just as a business owner, but as a person, to just kind of hunker down in case things get worse from here?
Definitely being a lot more conservative when it comes to our shops. For instance, if there's a picture on the wall that we didn't like before, let's just replace it. But if it's something that we can fix ourselves and we don't have to buy a new piece of furniture, those types of things. If a piece of equipment were to die on us, instead of replacing that piece of equipment, have it repaired, renegotiate any type of leases or programs you have with your landlords or vendors. These are people too, and they'll help you. But if you dodge them, they're not going to help you. Just communication is the key. I guess to answer the question, if it got really, really, really bad, we would just close one store at a time, and we would close our least profitable store and try to work on 2 stores. If that didn't work, we would close another store. If that didn't work, we would have to, like any other business, we would have to close all of our stores,
Sure. Well, hopefully it doesn't come to that.
No.
I mean, people will love coffee, and I would assume that even in a bad economy, you'll still be able to at least get people coming in and still having some of your brew. So I know I'll be
Yes.
coming in soon to check it out.
Definitely.
So thanks for coming on today, Joe. Really appreciate it. So if you guys enjoyed this video and you're in the Bay Area, make sure you go check out Pink Owl Coffee and see Joe over there. And if you don't want to wait for my next video to come out, check out this one on the screen right over here, and I'll see you in the next one.